Hello, folks. Hello, folks. This is Douglas Eugene Helvey. I'm a retired U.S. Navy hospital corpsman, having served my country, the United States, from 11 November 1977 to 31 May of 1998. I'm creating this message unedited. I'm not real good at this type of thing, but I've got a few points that I wish to make in reference to what's going on in our country right now and why this former North Carolina unaffiliated voter that used to vote right of center or Republican 99% of the time will no longer do that as long as I breathe a breath in my remaining however many years I've got to live. And I'm 65 years old right now. I'm making this video because I recently, for a number of reasons, I found out that the Republicans in Congress, as well as apparently probably Democrats too, I don't know how all this works, but I hold the Republicans responsible because they are the majority in the Congress and Senate right now. I recently found out that the 119th Congress created what I call a death panel. They decided that when you're either a retired military member who served 20 years or more, and you are also a disabled veteran, disabled based on your service to this country, that when you hit 65 years of age, they're basically limiting your medical benefits that you need to continue to live a longer and more healthier life. I specified that I went from being standard TRICARE to TRICARE for life. While on TRICARE for life, the moment I turned 65, I was no longer able to receive Wegovy, a medication that helped me maintain a very, very healthy weight of 175 pounds. I was put on Wegovy when my weight reached 225. I also need to back up a number of years. In 2019, and to be specific, in September of 2019, through my various medical insurance, I was able to get what's called a sleeve gastric surgery. That's called a sleeve surgery, which removed 90% of my stomach. At that time, I weighed 290. I would eventually get down to 175 by about 6 months after my surgery. However, over a number of years, over about 5 to 5.5 years, I did regain some weight, which was kind of expected that I would regain some. I regained about 40 pounds, 40 or 45 pounds. I saw my nutritionist again, and she put me on Wegovy. Wegovy helped me to get back to the very healthy weight of 175 pounds. When I was at 175, and of course my height, to let everybody know, my height is 5'9" or 69 inches. At 69 inches and a weight of 175 pounds, I felt better than I had in probably at least 40 years. 35 to 40, thereabouts. Then, of course, when my birthday hit on the 9th of November, I would come to find out that TRICARE for life had become what I now call TRICARE for death. Because apparently the Congress voted that when you're 65 or older, a retired and or disabled veteran, that you no longer need the medical care that would keep you healthy. Instead, they decided to remove people of my age bracket, both men and women, from TRICARE for Life's coverage of the GLP medications, Wegovy, Zepbound, and so forth. They said, we'll let these people get diabetes and other complications that arrive when your various regimens for maintaining health no longer work. Okay? So they basically said if you're 65 and older, you can go ahead and get diabetes and its complications and go ahead and basically Congress said veterans and disabled veterans 65 years of age and older, we're now expendable. When I served in my country's Navy for 20 years, I knew that there might come a time where I had to enter a battlefield or my ship enters a battle commitment and I might get killed. I accepted that. I knew it. I accepted it freely. But apparently, our congressmen who get paid roughly $250,000 a year and have all their medical expenses covered, apparently they decided that people like me can go ahead and die. Okay, that's my rant on that particular avenue or scenario. That's my rant for that. My next rant is one of the reasons I hope that if the draft is actually enacted and men are forced, maybe against their wishes, to enter the military, that they leave the country, go somewhere where they don't have to do this. And this is coming from somebody who happily served his country for 20 years. And here's my reasons why I do not now or at any point in my adult life believe in selective service and or the draft. Here is why. Number one, if you're going to force the draft on any man, you better force it on women, because women want the equality. Okay, fine. Let them have the equality of dying in a battlefield also. I do not believe because you give birth to babies that you should be exempt from this. And I believe if women were not exempt from it, if the draft is used, you would see our country entering into fewer wars. That's my personal opinion. Also, if you force the draft into this country again, because our Congress and our leadership, including Congress, Senate, and our president, gets us involved in a war, then there will be no college dispensations. Everyone will be forced to enter the military. The sons and daughters of the rich and privileged, the sons and daughters of the politicians. Basically, if you're a politician and you vote for this shit, guess what? Your sons and daughters get to go to the head of the damn line, and they get to go, and you can watch them get their brains blown out on the battlefield or get their ship sunk in the Navy. If you're rich, your sons and daughters go. There's no getting around it. If you're the sons and daughters of politicians, you get drafted. And frankly, if everybody doesn't get drafted, then nobody should get drafted. End of statement. And I am firm about this, and I don't care who knows this. No, if everybody doesn't get drafted, nobody gets drafted. And as a voting member of this country, if I see the draft go on and I don't see the sons and daughters of the rich and privileged getting drafted, I'll be the first one to go into the street and protest this garbage. If the young men from the inner cities, the young men that lives in the country or lives on the farms, if they have to be forced to go and die in wars that only benefit the politicians and the rich, then they can send all their damn children to this war. And if they don't, it's a hypocrisy, and we need to fight against the government to stop it. No. And by the way, there should be no selective service as long as there is one veteran, retired veteran, or disabled veteran living in the streets, dying because they have to fight for their benefits for years on end. And I mean years on end. There are still elderly men fighting to get their benefits they were supposed to receive from the Vietnam War. Does anybody remember when the Vietnam War ended? Can we say 1972? There are still men, and assumedly maybe even some women, fighting for benefits from that war. This shouldn't happen. End of statement. If you are waiting a year to get your prosthetic leg, that should no longer happen. You need a prosthetic leg. It gets created and gotten to you in a week. I, as a veteran who did in fact volunteer, am sick of seeing what happens with veterans who have to fight months, if not years, to get their benefits. It took me somewhere around 8 to 10 years to get the benefits I got. So, once again, number one, I am now a libertarian. I literally switched from unaffiliated in North Carolina. I am now a voting libertarian. I am encouraging people that do not want to see their children forced to fight for a country that throws away its veterans and its disabled veterans. When it's done, I encourage you to turn on the Republican Party. I encourage you to walk away from the Republican Party. I encourage you to actually run away from the Republican Party, because what they really are, they're the uniparty. They're the ones that claimed that they were going to drain the swamp, but all they have done is fill it up with more shit. That's all I've got to say. Run away from the Republican Party and save your sons from being drafted. No selective service until all disabled and retired veterans' needs and promises are being met. Until that day occurs, no selective service, period.